Hey now, and how are you doing? Want to welcome you to the next episode of Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat. Today, we're definitely going to talk about some Phoenix Rising. I can't wait to talk about that. I was connected with Lee, and man, her story is incredible. And she talks about dogs. Who doesn't want to come in with somebody who smiles, talks about dogs, and wants to keep helping people in the world? How are you doing today, Lee?
I am doing fabulous, thank you. It is wonderful to have met you and learned a bit about what you do, and we have such commonality. I mean, I love your acronyms for BAT, and that's how I live my life.
Being awesome today, right?
Yeah.
That's I have to wake up in the morning. What's going to bring me to be awesome today?
Right?
Well, why don't you
It's all
tell
about
everybody a little bit about yourself? And since I mentioned the Phoenix, have bring it in any way you would like to bring it.
thanks. So first, let me say hello to your audience. I hope you're all having an awesome day or evening wherever you are or whenever you're listening. Um, I'm someone who throughout life has had a lot of hard knocks, lots of things that have really kicked me down. And for some reason, there's been this positivity as part of who I am and an ability to overcome those things.
Resilience, right?
The resilience, yeah. And the I don't know, it's resilience, it's perspective, it's a lot of things
Sure.
that come to those of us who are able to navigate. Uh, and originally, I had a story that made me think of a phoenix and got a tattoo of a phoenix. But later in life, had another hard knock that truly hit me. And I wasn't able to work for a couple of years with PTSD. And another story of the phoenix rising out of the ashes that led, as I was telling you a bit ago, about led to me getting a service dog who literally saved my life. Um, and at 3 years old, he was diagnosed with terminal cancer. I had to get another dog to train to be my service dog and named him Phoenix Rising.
Mm.
And out of all the fundraising to get a service dog, not many people know that it costs between 40 and $50,000 to get a service dog.
To be properly trained to identify and to, you know, dogs and animals will always, um, help us in so many different ways. But a properly trained dog is very expensive because
You
of the
know
type of
already.
things
Yeah.
that they're dealing with.
Yep.
I mean, think about it. Even when we train our own dogs, right? Just a dog that you get out of the pound, it takes some time to train. Could you imagine dealing with PTSD?
Right.
I can't. I've seen some of the training. At one point, I was supporting Pause for War, which is an organization that helps veterans uh, get through PTSD. But
Yep.
PTSD is a lot of us have experienced that in our lives, and not only through
Right.
war. And you experienced it not through war, but through life's challenges
Yeah.
that comes up.
Yeah. And so I started a foundation, Phoenix Rising, and my passion is um I love to share my story, as difficult of a story as it can be. I want other people to know that there's hope, that they too can rise from the ashes, right? So I don't mind sharing my story. Um,
I'd love to hear your
whoever,
story. I knew a little bit about it, but why don't we share with the audience your story so they understand, you know, that
yeah.
rise, some of the things that you rose from, and
Hmm.
why you needed to name your dog Phoenix Rising.
Phoenix Rising, yeah. So in my 20s, I was remembering being abused, sexually abused as a child, around 10 or 11 years old. by a couple of neighbors. One who later ended up becoming my brother-in-law, as crazy as that is. So remembering all of that and gosh, the guilt, the blame, the so much
And the
around.
embarrassment,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
it's so powerful. That's why we need to, as a society, talk about getting those things out
Right.
because the challenge is if not, you really, by pushing it down, you're doing yourself a disservice. I didn't
Yep.
understand about survivor guilt till I experienced it 35 years after a girlfriend passed away.
Oh,
And, I just was like, okay, what wasn't my fault. I told her to go to the party, but she wasn't driving. She was on a sidewalk, got hit by a drunk driver,
uh,
but I was the last person to speak to her.
oh,
And, you know, I was like, okay, you eventually get over that. And it took me a while to get over that. But
that,
35 years later, I'm
yeah.
reading some of the things that I wrote to her, and it breaks out. So I'm sure you had the same type of experience because you had been told to push down things. Please continue.
Right. Not only as a young child, hinting at things that were going on and not being heard, but when I finally came out to my family, that I was a victim of sexual abuse. Um, the reactions were appalling. My mom saying, you're making a mountain out of a molehill and you should just lay back and enjoy it. Um, and then my sister, who had married one of the guys, blaming it on me because apparently I came on to him. And I remember saying at that time, um, when Amy, her daughter, who was around 2 at the time, when Amy gets to be 11 years old, I'll come and I'll ask you, does she have the power to fight off a 50-year-old man?
Right.
Um, but then when she got divorced, because
Patterns don't change generally.
yep, a daughter from a previous marriage had also named him. The divorce was and still is blamed on me.
Mm. So
Oh, that
it's
didn't.
yeah, it's easy to point at somebody for a blame or anything like that rather than looking at the real problems.
Right, right. Um, that blame was all misplaced. And you know what? If there's someone out there listening to this now, don't blame yourself, right? Honor that child within,
Yeah.
and take care of her. Um, so that was my original, surviving that whole process of remembering and the flashbacks and the reactions I was getting from the people around me. That was my first Phoenix Rising. And
Tell me about that moment because I know you shared with me, but I'd love the audience to hear that what the chaplain told you.
oh yeah, I became a church secretary. And part of the history is that I was told I'd never be anything more than a secretary. I took a job as a church secretary. And I was remembering all of the abuse as I was this church secretary. And the pastor said to me, um, don't listen to that. You can be and do anything you want to be in life. And that was such an incredibly transformative moment because I can, really?
Gave you that permission, right? Sometimes we need that initial permission to know what we can step into.
Right, right. And my faith took root and wing, and I eventually went to uh, Andover Newton Theological School, where I got my Master's of Divinity and became an ordained clergy person, which, wow, um, who would have ever guessed it? Uh,
That's one of those beliefs that I have. I'm not a very religious person, but I do have a relationship with God, and I'm like, I don't know all the things that I'm going to do or have done, things that I would have never been able to plan out, but you trust it's God's plan. I mean, even meeting people like yourself, we would have probably never met. You're not, in my neighborhood, in my
Right.
circle, but to hear all these stories and make sure that it goes out, that's part of my mission that I believe,
Yeah.
you know,
There's something greater than us at work in our lives. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Um, Years later, in 2016, my brother died of a drug overdose. He and I hadn't been speaking because I had called the police on him when he attacked our dad, who had just come home from open heart surgery, and then drove his dump truck into our house and took off. He was arrested for drunk driving, and the jury determined he was a danger to society, and so he was kept in jail until his trial many months later, during which time our dad died. He didn't have a chance to say goodbye to dad. He couldn't come to the funeral. Um, and again, it was my fault because I called the police. Never would have changed that. Had he left and run over and killed a kid, I would never forgive myself. So I don't second guess that decision I made that day.
Right.
But that set the stage with the rest of my family. When he died 5 years later, they and my siblings and their adult children and families made a statement that they never wanted anything to do with me or my kids ever again. And when sharing that story with someone, he asked, "So when's the first time your family abandoned you?" And the memories came in of this brother when I'm told the story. I was 3, which would make my sister 13, my brother 11. He came after the two of us with a knife, wanting to kill us. Um, I suspect he was had taken drugs at that point. And then other times, my mom, when I disclosed that I had been abused, she told me, "Oh, we knew all about it when it was happening." And you did nothing? Um, and then other times when my family wasn't there for me
Mm.
and being abandoned, it nearly destroyed me. Um, 2 years of the depression and the panic. God, panic is,
Well, that's
uh,
what it is. Psychologically, that's, neurologically, that's what it is. It's PTSD is being stuck in a moment that
right?
you don't know the trigger at that time. That's why understanding how that all works. I mean, I've done some of that work when I
Yeah.
first learned about the amygdala, response systems, and
It's
that's where the magic
fascinating
comes
how
in.
our brain
Sure.
works. So fascinating. Um, it was during that time that I learned about psychiatric service dogs and got one for myself. And, Shadow literally saved my life. He's trained to wake me up from night terrors before I'm literally screaming bloody murder. Picks up on my body's um, the symptoms of anxiety before it turns into a full-blown panic attack.
The energy. I mean,
Yeah.
like that's what you're talking about a little about the woo woo is an energy. I'm right. If you're connected with
Oh
your
yeah.
partner, you kind of know what to do. And the same thing with an animal. I mean, that's why our animals, a lot of times, there's plenty of stories. Just a dog that wasn't trained but still knows energetically when you just need that lick, that you know.
Right? Yeah. Oh, he's amazing. But the two times that he saved my life were two times that I was suicidal. And I can even picture the tree, and I wrote a book about trees and my experience because of how powerful they were. My intention was to drive into a tree and end my life.
Mm, okay.
And he sensed that. He was riding in the front seat both times and just went bonkers and got my attention and stopped me from doing it.
Wow. That's an incredible story.
Yeah. Yeah. Whew. So, uh, Shadow was diagnosed with cancer. I had to get his successor dog much earlier than I ever anticipated, and he is named Phoenix Rising.
And that's how you got the name, the Phoenix
That's how
Rising Service Dogs.
service
So
dogs saving lives.
you actually participate in the training, uh, or you help, or are you more of a middle person, from the trainer to the person who's at need?
You know what? So there are two ways you can get a service dog. One is through organizations that do all the training, conversations with you so that they know what to train the dog. And when you get your dog, the dog is usually between 2, 3, maybe 4 years old. You're getting a fully trained service dog. The other way is to get the dog as a puppy and train it with a trainer who specifically trains the team, the
Right.
dog and the human together. Um, so I was very involved with both Shadow's and Phoenix's service dog training.
That's great. You build
Yeah.
that bond.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Anybody who's had a dog knows, but there's something different about service dogs, and that's where it, people have done a disservice. There's a lot more service dogs now, and that's not what I mean by the disservice. It's easier to get a service dog label, and and I've seen, oh, that way I can get my dog on a plane and this and that, which there is value in that, and I'm not suggesting that there's no value, but
Mhm.
if they haven't been trained, just having your dog is not, you know, um, the best way. What goes
Right.
into training? Because you have that experience.
Whew. It's exhausting.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So you think of training your pet, right? You might do it Tuesday morning and Friday afternoon and once or twice over the weekend if you have time. You go to a class once a week, maybe. Um, Training my service dogs was uh, really a 24/7 kind of project. So I would meet with the trainer twice a week, and then every day was two, three, maybe four sessions of training,
Mhm.
um, specific training that was 20 minutes to half an hour long. Uh, and then when I say with me 24/7, my dogs, even as puppies, just stayed by my side, and I was constantly, depending on what was going on in the environment, if it was people coming and visiting or whatever, hard work training
Yeah, they had to pick up.
good
I mean, they have to
behavior.
learn. I mean, depending on what for you with the anxiety and the trauma related to that,
Right,
there's dogs, which is just incredible, that can help identify seizures,
right.
pre-seizures, and things like that.
Yeah. And so part of it was, um, so Shadow is trained and Phoenix to alert me to the anxiety before I'm even aware of it, right? So anxiety starts as something little, but it builds and builds. And often by the time I was aware of it, it was well past beyond being able to control it. So sh I had to first figure out how is my body showing anxiety before
Right.
I'm aware. So it
And
was
notice
okay,
those
all
things.
you people who know me pay really close attention. And one of the things was I started shaking my foot. So first we had to
Which is
discover,
good that there's a visible sign because not everybody has that visible sign,
yeah,
that visible tell.
yeah. And there are a couple others. So, okay, these are what my body's showing. All right, shadow. Here's how you what you need to pick up on. And then night terrors took a lot of time to, again, what's going on in my body that I can teach Shadow to be aware of so that he wakes me up. Um, Lots of
One of the
things.
things that it's how so that's one level of training, to identify the tells, the
Right.
triggers
Yep.
that might help you out. What are some of the other tools? Because I know mentioning in your profile, it was talking about storytelling, and I know I've been trained in equine therapy, and
Mm,
where we work with people so they could tell the horse part of their story with somebody who's trained to guide them. And I know, right, how many of us who are just with a dog straight out of the pound might talk. Our best friend might be our cats, our dogs, our my chinchilla back home. I Every night I talk to Bubba, my chinchilla. Uh,
I love
yeah. So
it. Yeah,
can you explain that a
there's
little bit?
power in that. Uh, One of the other things my dogs do for me is deep pressure therapy. And so telling my story early on when it was really raw, that um,
Mm.
having them, so they're both black labs, they're big, but they get on my lap and they push against my chest. There were many times in therapy that that was the only way I was able to speak is with them doing that or Shadow doing that for me.
I was just going to
And
ask you
I
about,
feel safe.
yeah, that what was deep pressure therapy. In case anybody didn't know,
Oh yeah.
it's why weighted blankets have become popular, because there's sometimes we need that kind of hug, that extra hug.
A hug, a
And I mean, I've
grounding.
taught all my dogs when I had my dogs how to give hugs, and because sometimes you need that, and they need it also. Uh,
Right? It's
yeah.
a two-way street. So there's that storytelling that my dogs help me do, but there's also the storytelling of telling to the dog, right? Who doesn't answer back, who doesn't criticize, who loves you no matter what you
Right. No,
say,
no judgment, right? It's the perfect coach in that way. It's no judging, and it's always going to give you love.
right? And the science behind it as well, that stroking a dog, which you're often doing as you're talking to it, lowers your blood pressure
Sure.
and grounds you. Yeah, so there's a lot.
Yeah, which leads into, as you had asked me before, to show you one of the things that I do. So I learned this thing called havening, which is a
Saving you.
havening, yeah, uh, which provides a safe haven, right? We want to create a safe haven. It's a psychosensory touch modality that most of us do anyway without even thinking about it. One of the ways, I just by rubbing your hands slowly it creates delta waves, and it automatically starts calming you down. It triggers your amygdala to to among the things. Or you can rub your arms, which gives you really that huggy feeling. And to do that, there's so many different ways to do that, and how to attach it to. But that touch, when you were talking about petting, I know my friend Andrea taught havening to her dogs and works with uh, pets. That it's one of the things that she gives them havening. It's sort of that touch. Who doesn't like to be touched and in a loving way? And it's so powerful to build that connection.
Yeah, so very true. So very true. Yeah.
So, while you're doing that, and you're doing fundraising, so what type of fundraising are you doing so that way you can defray some of that 50,000, 40 to $50,000 costs.
Right. So I have lots of ways I'm doing it, sort of whatever it can work. One of them is as simple as it is. I collect bottles and cans and recycle them
Yep.
teeny bits at a time. Uh, One of the bigger projects that I'm working on right now is getting authors, I shouldn't call them authors because that scares people away. Finding people who want to share their story of how their service dog saved their life and creating an anthology. It's called Phoenix Rising, Stories of Service Dogs Saving Lives. Uh, that for each story told, finding a sponsor to um, pay for the chapter to be in the book and be recognized. And then when it's all done, the book sales and all will also support Phoenix Rising. And my vision is to, I won't do any of the training, but connect with trainers or people who are training their dog and providing scholarships.
That's
Um,
beautiful. Yeah, no, that's great. Normally I'm an author and I help people write books as well. I don't like the anthologies in a lot of ways, just because a lot of times in the ways that I've seen it being used, it's just supports somebody else's brand. But in
right,
this is the brand. This is the mission. I love the idea and
support that
to teach
mission.
people the value of what their donation. So if somebody wants to support a chapter, that is a wonderful way to do that, and really helping other people. That's
And
awesome.
helping people get a life-saving service dog of their own.
Yeah. The when I've been around people who've received a trained service dog, it's amazing to the connection, but also the improvement in somebody else's life.
Yeah. My son suffers from many mental health diagnoses, and he was on disability for 3 to 4 years. I'm not sure exactly how long. And what was a main factor in him being able to get off of disability was his service dog.
Mm. Yeah,
Mm.
it really is such a change in life. And um, now, okay, so I'm gonna, the one of the challenges of people who have service dogs, everybody wants to pet their dog.
Oh, yes.
Can we explain why that might not be the best to do?
Right. So whenever you see a dog with a service dog vest, do not pat the dog, but go ahead and ask the handler. So the majority of the time, the answer will be no, because it distracts the dog from doing their work. They need to be paying 100% attention on their handler, the person who they're serving. There are some instances when a handler will say yes. So for me, um, part of my challenge was feeling safe out in the world. So there are many things that Shadow does to help me feel safe, watching out,
Right.
behind me and around me and other things. One of them was interacting when I gave him permission with others as a bridge for me to be able to begin interacting with someone.
Mm.
Uh, I was terrified of one-to-one interactions. Um, Slowly, with him building that, starting the connection, and knowing, yes, this is an okay person for my mom to be with, because he could sense. They say that dogs know when someone's a bad person. They do,
Yeah,
right?
right. If a person doesn't like you, that there's ways to work around it. But if a dog doesn't like you, there's a problem.
Yep. So that helped. That was a time when I would say, yes, you may.
Yeah.
Baby steps for me. But
Well,
yeah, usually no.
Life is a bunch of baby steps.
Ah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, because we're getting close to the end of the episode, and what I usually do is I ask people to walk into the magic garden with me. And what happens there is you get to plant a seed that might grow magically right now, and it might resonate with somebody immediately. And some seeds takes a little more time. We need to think about it. It needs a little bit more water and love.
Hmm.
So we never know what the seed's going to bring us. So
Right.
you have something that you could share with us, either about your Phoenix story or anything else that would grow and be able to help somebody else.
Oh, I think the seed that I would like to plant is being aware that people are broken on the inside as often as they're broken on the outside. And so if you see someone with a service dog and you look at them and say, you don't need a service dog, stop yourself and think about what might be going on the inside for that person.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Right. They don't give you a service dog just because. Thank
that's right. So,
you. Well, thank you so much, Lee, for sharing that, your lovely stories, and really the idea. I just love the idea that, I was definitely attracted to the Phoenix, having using that in the work that I do, but also to understand, again, I've seen the value of service dogs. So I'm glad that you experienced it, and you're helping others to experience that wonderful, safe, haven. Um, how can anybody find you, and to support your missions?
oh, thank you. The Phoenix Rising website is a great way to learn more about me. If you want to support the mission in any way, it's not just financial, but there are lots of other ways to support. The website is Phoenix Rising dash SDSL, the letters for Service Dogs Saving Lives dot
Mm.
com. And we have become fiscally sponsored, so any monetary donations are tax deductible here in the United States. So that's an exciting milestone we reached.
All right. Well, congratulations on that. I run a charity also, called Goons for Good, who actually looks for organizations like yours. What we have a couple of missions, in terms of we help people with mental wellness, substance disease,
Yeah.
animals. So we're always looking for local charities to help out, because our end mission is to really, find some goons, some guys or people, women who want to show up. A lot of people don't know where to show up, but
Right.
they want to help. They want
Mhm.
to give things, but they
Mhm.
don't know where to go, and that's where goons step in. We don't necessarily
Mm.
have one mission. Our mission is to connect you with other ones, much like, when you do your cans. We have a organization here on Long Island in New York that does that to help people with cancer. And
Ah,
so,
cool.
it's all these little things. We help a little bit here,
Right?
we help a little bit there. Life does change.
Yes, it sure does.
Well, thank you for changing our lives today, Lee. I really appreciate it.
And thank you for all you're doing in so many ways. I am so, so glad that we've found each other and been able to connect.
Well, thank you. And for everybody else, as always, I wish you peace and love in your life. We know what
As
that
well.
means. And, when you bring a bat, just be awesome today, as I'm losing my voice. But, bring that awesome thoughts to yourself and for others. Spread that energy, much like Phoenix Rising does. And let's just keep moving forward to make everybody better off. Thank you.
Thank you.